Yeah, I don't know if I can do this question justice, really. Are there similarities? Is there similarities between Zen and Theravada in terms of mindfulness and action? Well, I've never really studied Zen, so I can't give much of a educated answer about that. So certain, and also, there does seem to be quite a diversity in Zen schools and Chan schools in particular, which they come out of. The very simplistic notion that I have is um, both of them are traditions that put a lot of emphasis on practice. So, although there are scholarly traditions in both, especially in the Chinese uh, tradition that gave birth to Zen. So, but yeah, I can't really speak on that in depth. So, okay. Let's see. Somebody has a question here. Could you please elaborate on people who commit suicide due to mental distress? I heard unexpected news of a young celebrity in India and it disturbed me. So, hmm. It's a strange feature of human existence and human societies. And for many people, the most dangerous person is yourself. Um, Anyone thinks this task of learning how to live in a way that is truly good and helps us overcome the liability that we have for suffering, uh, the existence of suicide in particular, uh, speaks to just what a serious matter it is, you know, that one would willfully sort of take their life. Um, the suffering, the confusion, um, and the delusion becomes so strong that one would take their life due to mental distress. So, um, or even take their life uh, due to uh, illness and terminal disease. So there's not much in detail spoken about it in the suttas, but there's clarification in the monastic Vinaya that it's still considered um, wrong in the taking of life. So, and I don't know. I mean, the thing I always reflect on is, how can one know for sure that one is completely sort of free of that sort of liability? Um, we are we are responsible for um, our happiness and suffering on some level. We're the only one that can do something about it, and we fail to sort of rise up to the challenge to understand this mind and this body. Um, it has these kind of dire consequences. So, so Please answer my question above tagged as. And I don't know. It's like nothing really deeper or more profound is kind of coming to mind on that topic today, Summary. So Ivy Young, I'm new to meditation. Do you have reflections or advice? Take it easy, Ivy. Oftentimes I meet people and they're all excited to get going with meditation practice, and that's kind of wonderful. Um, and meditation is really, there's a broad set of practices, but when we start off, oftentimes we have a lot of ideas, and you got to start someplace. But it takes a while for us to really mature our understanding of what meditation is or what it can be. And a lot of the idealism early on breeds a certain amount of suffering. So just simple things like thinking that you need to sit in particular postures or sit for a particular length of time, or that you should be having certain experiences, which are very difficult or just practically inaccessible when one starts to practice. And so this is why I say relax and take it easy. Slow and steady, wade into the water and figure out um, the landscape without a whole lot of idealism. So meditation is and can be very simple, both in theory and application, but the kind of results that we're looking for oftentimes that are inspiring us to explore this or take up a meditation practice can be difficult to achieve. And it takes both a certain level of knowledge, self-knowledge, but also practice. It is like a training. We use the word training all the time, training or cultivating the mind. And so think of it as engaging with a natural system, or there's a kind of common analogy that's used, kind of thinking about it as gardening. You can't just step out into the garden and will it into being, and even sort of working sort of overtime or some sort of exaggerated, frustrated effort to make things happen in the garden can only take you so far. And it's good to have a sense of clarity of like what it is that brings us to practice. What are our motivations? What are the ideals or the notions that we have that are inspiring us, and then finding ways to step by step explore that and honor that and make a gradual kind of commitment to learning more and applying oneself and developing a practice. So and I'd say when it comes to meditation, you might think of it as the artful practice of learning how to um, relax, refresh, and energize the mind through being perfectly at ease with a simple object of meditation in the present moment. So you can think of it as advanced skill in true relaxation and refreshment. And I like to emphasize that because I think sometimes people start off with notions of they should be having fantastical experiences, or they should be experiencing a cessation of thought, like discursive thought in particular. Um, and it's really about fostering a very positive, ever like positive, bright, present, centered awareness with your meditation object. And through effort, uh, nurturing and deepening, and you could even say perfecting the ability to be delightfully present. And then the mind moves to a kind of firmness and a solidity and a brightness, a lightness towards joy and happiness, serenity. There's a really wonderful increase in a refined energy of the mind that happens. It's not a low energy state when developed properly. So, anyways, that's a smattering of ideas for you, and as you kind of start wading into it, find a good teacher or technique. As most people know here, I'm a big fan of Ajahn Sona. If you haven't listened to his basic instructions on his YouTube channel, that's a good place to start. So I have a friend who's been meditating for years, and he told me he's listened to that so many times, over and over and over and over again. Even though it's a very simple teaching. And clarity of intent and practice is really important. Knowing what it is that you're trying to do, having a clear strategy can be very important. And it's not uncommon that we need to remind ourselves over and over again what it is that we're trying to do, what it is our strategy in developing the meditation, and also what qualities of mind in particular we're looking for and trying to nurture. Let's see, Ken Tabata. Good morning, Ken. Yesterday, somebody was talking about no self. Majjhima Nikaya number 2, the Sabbasava Sutta, paragraph 8. The view no self exists for me is wrong. That's is a wrong view. I'd have to go back and look at that, Ken, in detail. I really like the Sabbasava Sutta, and it's one that I highly recommend people spend some time reading and contemplating. The thing I like most about it is it helps dispel some of the notions that the overcoming the defilements is merely something that happens through meditative attainments. So there is a component of view, but there's also sort of all kinds of other approaches that broaden what it means to sort of take up the practice. And in that sutta, the very first section is dealing with view and the perfection of the view. But just sitting here this morning, seeing this sutta, paragraph 8, the view no self exists for me is a wrong view. I don't have enough context to comment on it. So Kid Code. What are the most important factors in maintaining a long and fruitful practice? Well, I think a love of the Dhamma could be one for people. I remember meeting um, Prapayuto, this really wonderful sort of Thai Buddhist monk who's lived his whole life. I think he ordained very young as a novice and was recognized as quite a bright um, mind with a potential for um, studying the suttas, and he became really one of the most eminent Buddhist scholars in Thailand. And I remember he was visiting Wat Pananachat, where I ordained one time, and somebody asked him a question similar to this. It was the monks were having a session with him, and they were asking him, as a study monk who, just assuming that one is more immersed in study and writing as opposed to the life of a forest monk who might not study much at all, but is spending a huge amount of his time, especially in the early part of the training, just doing practice. There's this sort of sense of, there was this curiosity about spending so much time studying the Dhamma and maybe not as much time doing practice. How is it that one sustains oneself? And I remember he had this kind of beautiful kind of answer. And he said something that sustained him really is just his lifelong love of the Dhamma. Um, so, so that could be one, and I almost interpret that as like this expression of faith and nurturing, deepening, developing that sort of faith, and certainly there's many ways that somebody can deepen their faith, but certainly one of the most beautiful ones is like a long and deep pursuit of trying to understand uh, the Buddhist teachings in depth. So I think another important factor, though, is uh, some sensitivity or insight into dukkha and the pervasiveness of it, and what a pernicious problem that is for us personally and us as living beings. Um, and for me, that's probably what sustains me the most, is just reflecting on um, the unnecessary suffering that myself and other beings are experiencing. And there's many times in frustration I wanted to give it up, walk away from it or something. But the thing that always uh, keeps me um, keeps me going is just this question of like, well, what are you going to do about this liability you have to suffer in ways that you have some sense can be alleviated and overcome? So uh, changing your job, or changing where you live, or changing many of the things of your life doesn't really fully answer the challenge of dukkha. So that's, to me, that's another very profound way to maintain a long and fruitful practice, is just to constantly be a student of dukkha, understand how it is that one suffers needlessly, uh, and the breadth and the depth and the difficulty in understanding dukkha so profoundly that one can alleviate and overcome it in one's life, and be, and hopefully contribute to others doing the same. So Duck plus B. I have an underlying mental health condition that is exacerbated by mindfulness practice. How else can I develop my practice? Is this an obstacle that I can overcome? Well, without knowing a lot of particulars, I should probably want to get a very general sense here, but there's a whole training or teaching called the gradual training, sometimes called the gradual path, and the breadth of what one can engage in go meaningfully in developing a Buddhist practice or Buddhist life is really wide. And so, if the mental health condition is exacerbated by mindfulness, then there's other things you can practice. And also, you need to investigate your understanding mindfulness practice, because the practice of mindfulness also is quite broad. So, and many people, when they first meet the practice, meet sometimes just a piece of it or a very narrow definition of what it means to engage in mindfulness practice. So, and then I see summary is answered here that one should focus on doing generous deeds more. That's one of the foundational things, is the practice of dana and generosity, selfless giving. And certainly that's a great foundation for everyone in their practice. So, but there probably still are ways to engage in cultivating the mind. And again, I can't really speak to the specifics. There's not enough information here. It's not appropriate for me. But look at the teachings on right effort. And that's a broader piece of this whole endeavor of cultivating the mind, which mindfulness is a part of. So, and I see Adila's suggested walking meditation. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I think all my technical difficulties this morning sort of destroyed my reflective capability. So I feel a bit flat here this morning, so my apologies to everyone. I think we're going to end it for today. I wish everyone a happy Sunday, and hopefully I'll get things tested and they'll work a little bit better tomorrow morning. So let me say good day to you all, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning on the morning coffee. So be well, friends.